DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, there's this weird scrolling thing going on. Well, that's just not happy. Good evening. We're going to try to fix the scroll thing. So we're going to come to this thing. We're going to turn this on, and we're going to see if... No, that's still doing its thing. It's horrible. Okay, great. We're going to have this 1970s TV effect going on where it's going to do that little thing, and then you can get the staticky, and after a while we get the bar saying, now your day of programming has ended. Please join us at 5 a.m. for the next show. Oh, wait. Maybe not. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's show. I'm John Young. That's MJ on the bottom, and Dan over to my... Hey, I've got it right. Dan is over to the right. Shani is not feeling well tonight. She has a nasty migraine thing going on, and we're sending our best wishes to her, and hopefully that is easing up. She couldn't even make it home from work today with the migraine, so that's not good stuff. Lori gets those occasionally, and thankfully I've never had one. But watching how it just punishes the folks who get those, I feel very sympathetic for that situation, because it's just like the whole world stops because they can't do a darn thing with that. That's just crazy. Gentlemen, good evening.
Hola.
Good. Your mics are on. Just want to make sure.
Is mine on?
Yeah, you're there. We can hear you.
You can hear me.
I can hear you.
Say what?
Yeah. Okay, so tonight we got a couple of things we're going to be talking about. We're going to be digging into an article that was put out here in the last... When was that article released? Oh, where is it?
2012.
No. It was 2012, but the video popped back up. The article was 2012, but I think the video...
Seriously, I was just making it up.
It was 2012.
It was 2012, yeah. But I think that, it was making the rounds again on social media in the last
they put out a video, and I think that's what... I'm going to see if I can find when the video was put out. It's, for those of you who don't know, it's for CNET. For those of you who don't know what CNET is, it is a humongous technology reporting website thing. They've been around for a long time. I can't even imagine how long, John.
Since 2012. Yeah. See what I did there?
Yeah, I think it was a little before.
A little before that. But yeah, they've been around for quite a long time. Back when it was Sea Express, the Pony Express. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's funny.
Okay.
That's funny.
Sorry, I'm just trying to build off that.
Let's see when the video was put. Because I think the video was recent.
But the article that we're referring to is how to DJ your own wedding, is what they were referring to. And there was a video that came out, but this was an article written by a gentleman who...
Donald Bell is one of their reporters.
Yep, Donald Bell, who wrote the article. And he was referring to, in this article from 2012, that he and his wife, not everyone can afford a high-end DJ, and not everyone can afford a DJ specifically. And he was talking that, it's well worth the money to hire a professional DJ. A professional DJ isn't your cousin Vinny, who's going to drink and be obnoxious at your wedding. That's what cousin Vinnies do, but that's not a professional DJ. And in his case, and I'm going to quote right from the article, my wife and I sunk our budget into the venue and catering. For the rest, we either tried to do it ourselves or we got by on the cheap. We figured that with enough food and wine in a beautiful setting, the wedding would be a success, even if the place settings weren't up to Martha Stewart standard. So basically, food, drink, beautiful venue, and whatever they could do for music. And he goes through and talks about kind of a DIY, how they did it, and then shares a handful of tips. Actually, there's quite a few tips here.
I have the article, so we can share it if you want.
Yeah, some tips, of course.
I thought we would go through this and look at what he recommended first.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. But
then,
he had a lot of information there.
Then I want to look at two perspectives from two totally different people. Okay, so I want to do. We'll go through this first, and then we'll talk where I want to view from, because we're going to talk about this in more detail. All right, so
that sounds good.
Share the screen.
Share the screen. Share the screen.
So if you go to CNET, it's there. How to DJ your own wedding. He said, like John said, it was because of his wedding he didn't have that option to financially to hire a DJ. And to some weddings, I mean, we've all been to zillions of them, that some of them the music isn't the biggest part of most important thing to them.
And I think that's a tough one for some of us to admit, that we as a DJ, we kind of talk about us being the center of attention, or, that what do people remember the most? They remember the party side of it. And I think that sometimes folks just don't, as DJs, it's like, maybe we aren't the most important thing for every event.
Yeah. All right, he talks, we're just going to roll down through, and I think like he gets into this the right way, because he really, some of the stuff that he suggests, as us as DJs, you're like, really? You have to actually tell somebody that? Mm-hmm. But from where he's coming at, you really do need to. He talks about the mic. He says, unless your wedding is being held at a secluded monastery, you're going to need a microphone at some point. That's one that would go, wait, you need to tell somebody that? He talks about the computer, preferably a laptop with and this is what I thought was funny, with a power adapter.
No, I had an iMac.
Because, again, you didn't think you'd have to tell somebody that. A small mixer, and they actually recommend the same mixer I'm using here in the studio. If you click on the link right here, it's the Behringer, little tiny Behringer. He talks about how many stereo inputs and outputs do you need, speakers. Obviously, they're sponsored by Mackie. Because they're or not Mackie, but is that a Behringer?
No, that's
Mackie.
Yeah,
that's
I was going to say there was Alto.
Yeah.
That picture was an Alto mixer up above.
Yeah, it's this link right here. When you click on this, the Ideal 6-channel mixer, it then takes you to the little Behringer 202, which I actually have the 3. That's not the one that came up before.
Yeah, this is all Alto this time.
Yeah, so I must have clicked on something else. This is the one, the minimum. That's what he said, minimum. Okay, so he does suggest stuff. Is the little one. This is the 505. I have the 303. This is what I use in the studio. Super basic, nothing major at all.
Yep.
But he talks about what you need: pair of speakers, audio cables, the connectors that you need and what they're called. He talks about microphones, and this is one that is a yes or no for some people. Microphone with a built-in on-off switch, and I know some DJs who hate on-off switches and some DJs who like them.
Yeah.
So that's something that can be discussed later, the importance or the non-importance of. And we're not, again, this show tonight, we're not trying to take your job away from you, because when I get to the discussion points, you're going to understand why we're going through this, because it's something. Wait till you get to the discussion points. No, because it really is. I know I keep saying that because I want to hit them, and I want you to make sure that those stick in your head, the discussion points. I like how he talks about extension cables, power strips, and gaffer tape, which that is something that I believe the average person would need a definition of, because most people think, because I actually know DJs who thought gaffer tape and duct tape were the exact same thing.
Yes,
they just thought it was another name for duct tape. And then he talks about getting a friend. If you're a control freak, this may not be for you, because you're going to need someone there. Someone to press play, if nothing else. He talks about making your own playlists, different things like that, to separate them into different areas. He talks about music going in the background for dinner, which is something that's normal to us. Talk about don't sink a lot of money into that. He actually named some songs, Motown classics, Jackson 5, etc., stuff that you would do at your wedding. Practice, which is something, if he's telling the average person to practice for DJing their own wedding, I'm telling every DJ out there, practice DJing. Yeah. It's a given. The advanced options and troubleshooting, he talks about mic feeding back, which is a given I think, you're going to have that, especially if you don't know microphones, you're going to have that. Talks about music volume up or down, percentages. And I love his parting thoughts. And I want to read the parting thoughts here. So please excuse me if I goof up the reading, but I like how he said this. And I think it's a good way to kind of sum up what he said there. He said, the perfect wedding is one where everything is done for you, exceeds your expectations, and just allows you to enjoy the experience without stressing on a single detail. No matter how much you love music or audio technology, or just love the act of doing things yourself, when you rope yourselves into running part of the show, you are heaping responsibility and stress onto yourself at a time when emotions and anxiety are already running high. Then his final sentence is, it's not for everyone. Hire a DJ if you can, but don't let a tight budget prevent you from dancing like a fool at your own wedding. And I thought that was a good sum up right there. So what I say is that I want to look at this two views from two different people, okay? Mm-hmm. The two people are, we're just going to say bride, because I think you can lump bride into bride and groom, parents, whoever's paying for that, okay? Sure. So we're just going to say bride as being the customer and the DJ. So there's our two sides, okay? Now, our 2 points of view I want to look at is, one, the bride who simply can't afford it. Just simply can't. That's all there is to it. They just don't have the budget. And then the other bride who is just too cheap, okay? And we're going to talk about how to talk to both of them and how we can reach the bride who is too cheap and possibly talk her, is that the best way I could sell it? Sell yourself, talk her into the importance of hiring you as a DJ, and the one who can't afford it, maybe helping her, or maybe lowering your budget down to hers if you're in a pinch and you know you're not going to be booked that day, about how to deal with her to maybe, if not get that gig at a lower price, but to be nice and friendly enough to her to where she would want to maybe in the future go, well, it's the year later, my uncle's his retirement party. That DJ was so helpful for our wedding, even though, I couldn't afford him. Maybe we should get him for the party. So it's about taking both of those mentalities, can't and cheap, and what we can do as the DJ to make an impact on that, to gain for ourselves or whatever. So what do you guys think of hitting it from those two angles?
No, I think that's fine. I think identifying and understanding a little bit about the people who are asking these questions or having these thoughts is an important part of the process, because you can't deal with them effectively until you have an understanding of who they are on the other end of that phone and why they're saying the things they're saying. Because I think that's probably our biggest hang up, is that we're assuming that everyone is like us and everyone sees the importance of us because we're us, we are awesome. So why isn't she or he valuing my service and my ability to come and perform for their wedding at the level I think should be valued at? So digging into that.
And I'm game as long as Juan doesn't show up to role play with a wig.
Juan, where are you? Where's your wig? He could come in. Juan.
What
I said I'm game as long as Juan doesn't show up with his wig to role play.
Yes, remember he had him filling for Shaney, and Juan came in.
Let's put it this way. Somebody in the chat room talked about budgets. I had a friend of mine who, I've known this family since the kids were kids, and she's like, I absolutely have to have you DJ my wedding, but we have a small budget. So I said, well, I'm going to cut the budget in half to what my normally is for them. And she's like, oh, that's way over what we can afford. So my half was basically the equivalent of a club night, more or less, or actually, and that was way over their budget. So their budget might have been $150, so let's say like her, she just didn't have the budget for it. Do you change your budget? Do you change the package that you offer? What are our options for that person?
Well, let's dig into a little bit more. Now, if she doesn't have the budget for it, let's look at there's two different reasons or two different possibilities here. One is she doesn't have the budget because everything is done on a shoestring. That the most expensive part of her day might be her dress at $150. And it could be that everything is on, and that's one bride, and we're going to handle her one way. Then we have the other bride who is similar to Donald in that article, where their priority was the venue. Their priority was the food, and the entertainment just wasn't a priority. So it's not that there potentially couldn't have been a budget for it. It's just that it's not a priority. So getting and talking to them is going to be a different situation. Now, in those two particular cases, just looking at for future referrals, the bride who is on a shoestring budget and can't afford anything really because they're just putting it together in nickels and dimes, for future referrals, if you work with her and you are able to come in there and do something and help her out, she's going to become, as long as you don't blow it, she's going to become a huge advocate for you, and she's going to tell every friend and every person that she knows that how awesome you were and how much you helped her out for the day. There's a couple over here who aren't interested in the music, or it's not a high priority. They're going to maybe they might tell a friend, they may not even know who the heck you are. You were the DJ. Over here, you were Michael Joseph or DJ MJ. You were that person, and you were there, and you saved their day, and da-da-da-da-da. Yes, it may not be the amount of money you typically make, but there's potential for some additional benefits from this one. Whereas I've had this couple over here where the music was just not a priority. We had a beautiful venue. We were in this beautiful horse stable barn. It looked incredible. They had a buffet, and they had this and that, and everything was top notch. And it got down to the entertainment, and it wasn't important. It's not worth my time to go in there because they would have been better off with the iPod or iPad type of a DJ type of a situation, because music wasn't important. There's no way I could win in this situation. I'm not going to be able to get my regular rate, and the potential for work down the road wasn't there. And when we met and talked and such, because they were downplaying what I was doing, it didn't feel right. I didn't feel valued as an entertainer because they didn't really want that. So it's like, well, that means I'm going to, in essence, sell my soul for little of nothing. And yeah. So those are the two in this particular area that I would look at, how you'd handle both. And I'm not sold on how to handle the gal who's on a shoestring budget. And I'd love to hear how you handle that, MJ, as you went forward, because I've worked with couples like that, but I've not had success, or as far as I haven't been able to fit their budget, even no matter how creative I got.
Yeah, I didn't end up doing her wedding. I mean, that was pretty much the line drawn in the sand. There was that it wasn't even close. But my thought is that, let's say most weddings are booked way out, but let's say this is a last minute thing and you're not already booked. Could you? I'm not sure if I would. I'm just asking this question, to you guys or whatever. Could you cut down what you take? So if, let's say, the most she could come up with is $150. Could you say, okay, $150 will get you one speaker, a microphone, and some music? No lights, no fancy stuff. We're just going to make some music happen at your reception. No mixing, no fancy stuff. I'm just going to do that. If that's something you would be interested in, would that be a direction that anybody would go? Dan, you look like you're ready to say something.
Yeah, Dan, you take this. I'm going to go grab a bottle of something to drink, and I can listen while I'm across the room.
My gut says no. And I know there are some people that, thanks, Day. I know that there are some people who would cut out what they do. For myself, I kind of have a level of quality that I want to bring, because in addition to playing for that bride, I'm also potentially playing for all of the friends and all of the family that are there that could, in theory, possibly hire me down the road for something. And if I come out with a single speaker, that probably wouldn't cut for what I need, just because that's what she had budget wise, that my lights wouldn't be what they need. But again, that's all she could afford. At some point I go, that's not good for me. I would rather bring out my normal setup for a lower price than I would provide something that wouldn't be adequate just to meet her budget. Now, with that being said, I have a hard time personally dropping my fee from those types of meetings where I had the bride that's on this shoestring budget, because unless you get to know what the incentives are, is it really a budget, or is it really a shoestring, or is it, my aunt said I need to pay this much for,
don't pay any more than this. Yeah.
Right. Don't pay any more than this. So that wasn't really her budget. She really wasn't a shoestring. She was just told, oh, DJs only cost this much. So that's a third type that we haven't even talked about. But I personally feel in some ways it almost comes back to bite you. You try and help, and for that bride that's on the shoestring who you come alongside and you help and you help and you help and you help, I believe karma's going to help you out. But unless you know that that's the reason why, you're potentially setting yourself up for her telling all of her friends, hey, by the way, this is the guy who only did it for this much. And then they call, well, why won't you do it for us? Why won't you cut your price in a third for us? This is what I charge. I heard Ed Spencer say this one time. He's a DJ down in Florida who he would do a wedding for free before he would ever cut his prices. And the reason he said that, reason why his justification was, if I do it for free, now I'm an expensive DJ who just gave them an awesome gift. Where if I cut my prices, I'm now just a cheaper DJ.
Ooh, that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah.
Yep.
So when I heard him say that, it kind of sunk in a little bit with me, because if I have a friend of mine, legit friend of mine that comes to me, I am more willing to actually offer them a free wedding, provided again I have the night and yada yada yada.
Exactly.
Then I am to say, you know what, I'm going to give you a friends and family discount, even though it's a friend.
And that's a tough one, because you want to do give the friends and family discount, or you want to be, and I've done it both ways. I've done the friends and family discount. I've done the giving it away for free, because I had heard the similar advice, and it's like, that makes sense. So you did that. And then I have one family member who paid my rate. They just basically, as a tip, gave me a check for my rate. It's like, wow. And then the next family member, when I did their wedding, they ended up actually paying me more than my rate at that time. And it's like, wow. Then the next family member gave me a nice handshake. And so it's like, okay. And it probably the part that it was the last one was right in the middle of the summer wedding season, and you're turning away weddings and you're turning away work, and I should have not have done that. And since that time, I don't know if I'm going to do another family wedding. I don't think that I will do one, and it's not because of the money side of it. It's just that I can't spend time enjoying my family at a family event because I'm working. So that's going to change. That changes that. And I think when it comes to friends and such, this is Bill Herman's idea with this, is that I'm going, this is what my rate is. And if a friend wants me to perform for them, this is what my rate is. I think that's what it would be, and go from there. Otherwise, I would rather be a guest.
Let me throw a quick scenario in here.
Mm-hmm.
What if it's Thursday? You're not booked that Saturday, and you get a call about that.
It would depend on the time of the year. As far as if it's a beautiful weekend that I can spend with my kids, there's a lot of value to me in that situation. If it's this time of year, well, not this particular, but fall, and it's kind of looking like it's, we're not doing anything for the weekend, then it becomes basically to a point, and I know there's people out there who cringe at this, but it becomes found money to a point. And if a person can pick up another $500 to go and do something on a Saturday night, that's something I've got to weigh if I would go and do that. $100 on a Saturday night? Well, yeah, I don't know. Where that line is, and it's going to be different for each person and each situation. There's definitely flexibility. And that's even when Drax and I do our business show and we're talking about business plans. That's a guide. There's always flexibility, and that means that sometimes you might take a $100 gig because it makes sense. Maybe because of the marketing, and maybe it makes sense because you're helping someone out. It might make sense because of exposure. There's always aspects to that you have to weigh out. But just to do things without thinking them through is where you really get in trouble.
Well, in last minute gigs, I've heard even some DJs say that they're going to charge twice as much because of the fact you're cramming the planning and everything else into MJ's scenario 2 days. I mean, it's not able to be spread out and put everything together. Again, what are they looking for? Are they looking for background music and that kind of thing? Okay, now we're
right
getting that that scenario kind of filled out. So
That's probably a better way to look at that scenario, is more than just you're 2 days away, they need a wedding, what all do they need? Because I had one a couple years ago that actually worked out for me. It was a Saturday. On the Thursday, their DJ canceled on them.
Yeah.
And they had a budget, and the minimum I went to was actually 50 above their budget. And they said, well, okay. And I'm like, well, what all do you need for this? And they go, well, we need just general music during dinner. And we're going to do father, daughter, mother, son. And that's the only dance we're doing. There's nothing else needed. And it's over by, I think it was 8 p.m., I think. So it was the simplest little thing. I made like one announcement, played some songs, and 8 o'clock packed up and went home.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like that scenario. I looked at that and I said, well, that's doable. They didn't need lights. So I had 2 speakers. They kept it simple. They got and actually funny story. I get there. This is a true story. I get there, start talking to the guy, and I'm like, holy crap, we went to high school together. And he was a year behind me in high school. I'm like, wait, your dad was Mr. Scott, the teacher. He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, I had your dad, he was my English teacher. And then his daughter walked in. I'm like, oh my gosh, I used to volunteer for a youth group that your daughter and her friends went to. All these people that are in the wedding, they went to the youth group. I used to volunteer. So like I ended up knowing everybody. So it can backfire. I did one for some friends, 10 or 15 years ago, where it was one of those things, and it kind of went the other way to where I had to do way more than the little bit that I got paid. So I learned from that one to be more specific, like Dan said, to really get the scenario.
Yep. And David asked in the chat room here on YouTube, because we've got both chat boards are really active tonight on Facebook and YouTube. So thank you guys, especially the Facebook crew. They're really adding some things here. But on YouTube, David asked if anyone would do a wedding for $300. Yeah, I would, with the right situation.
Yeah, the right situation. Exactly what he said there.
Yeah, I wouldn't. It wouldn't be June. It wouldn't be a summer wedding. It wouldn't be my full wedding show that I do when I'm doing the very elaborate things and all the different things. But there might be a situation where I would go out and do something wedding related, entertainment wise, for a $300 bill. To go and to make a blanket statement, say no, I wouldn't for sure. Well, there's always a possibility that there's a scenario that you might do something. Mm-hmm. And that's the part I guess I would like to have people just kind of think about, is that as soon as you start, you want to have some decisions made in your business that I won't do this and I won't do that, because then you can always fall back and say, I decided that I wasn't going to be a DJ who played profanity, as Mike Schnauders talked about on Sunday morning. I'm not that DJ. He made that decision a long time ago, and he lives that decision, and it's easy for him to say, I'm just not that DJ. But to go and say that I won't go out for $500, well, the situation might be like MJ. You know what? We're having a wedding, and we need 1 hour of music on a Thursday or Tuesday night. We're going to do a special thing on a Tuesday night. You know what? That might be a situation. And you go, what? I can go in there and I can do this. I can plug into their house system, because that's all I need, and it could be a quick $300 for something. Yeah.
That wedding that I talked about, it was over in enough time, because I do the bar and club scene also. It was over in enough time that I was actually able to go work that night also. So I was out anyway. Mm-hmm. So why not? Go ahead, Dan.
Well, I was going to say, and the thing to also kind of ask yourself when you're thinking about, I would never do that. How many of us charge differently for a class reunion or a birthday party than we would for a wedding? So if let's say you charge $1,000 for a wedding, but that class reunion, which is only 3 hours, you would do $500. If you would be willing to do that for that, I would think, and I would assume, at the last moment, you might be willing to pick up that wedding kind of for that same deal. If you're willing to go out for one, why not the other? Yeah, and I know there's more work to weddings, but in the same respect, once you start filling that out, and if you find out that it's not to the degree that you're thinking of, that definitely opens up those, maybe, that John was referring to.
Yeah, exactly. And it's everything's situational. There's very few things set in stone when it comes to running your own business.
You kind of have to. I learned this many years ago, is that you have to define, create your definition of success. So if your definition of success is making big paychecks on big weddings, that's one thing. But if your idea of success is to be working constantly, then that's a different direction to go. So that having the day off and still being able to make money. I mean, there are nights, I'm not going to lie, there are nights that maybe I have Friday night off. There are clubs in the city, not clubs, bars that do not have a DJ at all on Fridays, not one at all. But they tell me, if you want to come in and you're not working, we'll throw you $50 plus, dinner or whatever, and spend for a couple hours. And I look at it as going, I'm not working, I can't get a job, so I'm going to go and make grocery money and get a free meal. And a lot of people will not do that. But I'm looking, if I'm not going to make a penny tonight, why not go make $50 in a free meal? Mm-hmm. But that's not for everybody. So again, in the chat room, when you're doing this, we're not telling you exactly what to do. We're just looking at scenarios to help you make your decision for your business.
Rob Peter just joined us. Rob Peter is one of the Disc Jockey News writers, and he does a lot of stuff with us. And he just got engaged last Friday. So congratulations, Rob. Yay. And the first one of you who posts in the chat room, are you looking for a DJ? I'm giving Robin permission to ban you for the rest of the night. Don't.
Now, what we should ask him is, what is his budget for the wedding, and what kind of DJ would he hire? No, I'm kidding.
Actually, that's not.
Or would he DJ his own wedding?
No,
the title.
Oh my gosh, what about that? Because I do know DJs that partially DJ'd their own wedding.
Yep.
Where they had a friend help. But they wanted to be part of the scene too, and had a little fun, and the friend would do most of it, who was another DJ, and just kind of make it a party like it was a party at their house. Mm-hmm. I've seen that happen.
That's actually how I got started in the mobile scene. I was working in radio. One of the guys that I was working with, he was a very well-known DJ in the area, and he was doing his cousin's wedding, and he was in the wedding party. So it wasn't quite exactly the same, but he was in the wedding party, and he didn't have anybody to basically get the cocktail music started and make sure everything was going to work when he was actually doing the announcements from the hallway, because he was in the wedding party. Like he even announced himself coming in. So he knew obviously I was like a board op and did part-time work for him. I was in high school, and he's like, "Hey, come on, are you willing to come help me out?" "Yeah, this would be great. Sure, why not?" And that's what started the mobile side.
Wow.
Funny.
You fit right into this conversation perfectly tonight. Yeah, that's cool. All right, let's look at the other side. How do we talk to the bride who has the budget but just simply doesn't value us? Wants a lot of music, wants a party, but doesn't value the DJs price wise.
And that's a tough one, because you'll have some brides who are as you mentioned with the music, they want the music and they want the party, but they're savvy enough to know that if they push, they're going to find somebody who will do a 6-hour wedding for $200. They just know that somebody's out there. And I've had brides like that. And it's that's more than I want to spend. Oh, really? What have you been hearing for numbers? Well, I know that there's somebody out there who will do it for $300. I just know someone will. Well, have you heard anyone? Well, no, the lowest so far has been $695. Okay. But I know someone will. I'm just going to continue to call until I find someone who will work for that number. They're at a very nice venue. I know that they're spending $40 to $50 a plate for their food at the venue. So they're obviously spending money, but she knew the industry well enough to know she could push it. So you've got that type of bride who is interested in that level. Then you've got the bride who, getting back to like the Donald situation, that the music is just not important to them. They're going to spend their money elsewhere. So you've got really two different aspects here when it comes down to not wanting to invest money in entertainment. The person who has no interest in the value, or little interest in our value because they don't prioritize it, I get that. The question is, can you talk to that person who is wanting to make a low investment in there, but they still want to have a great party? That's the one. Can you talk them into making a better decision than to just go for the lowest price, even though they have the money, even though they have the desire? But they're just, because they want to get the lowest price and they want to get a good deal on their DJ. That's the one that I struggle with. My
thought, and within that struggle, I think one of the hardest aspects is when you have a bride like that, she doesn't want to hear anything. She wants to hear the price, and she wants to hear the price, and she wants to hear the price. And not saying that you can't talk to her and get her to change, but you really have to find a way to get her in front of you and learn about the things. I mean, Mitch Taylor would probably be able to, sell her an $8,000 package, but Mitch has a knack for talking to anybody. But what I really find out is you have to start asking those questions. But if she's so set on, somebody's going to do it, she knows the answer to the questions, but her thought is that somebody will give me that for that price. And, what I find interesting for a lot of times is the easiest way is if you can get her other vendors to kind of sell you, you're looking for, okay, what kind of event you're looking for? What do you want your guests to describe this as? And what are you wanting to describe it as when the whole night is done? Oh, I want this great party. Okay. Here's my price. Oh, that's way too high. I know somebody will do it better. Okay. Who are you using for your photographer? Who are you using for your venue? Okay. I've worked with them lots of times. Here's what I would like you to do. If you could just call them up, ask them about me. Ask them about the type of event you're going to get with me. And if you keep calling other DJs, that's fine. Ask them about that person. Find out, are they going to give you that kind of party? And if your people that you're working with say this guy that's going to do it for the $200 is great, and you're going to get that awesome party from him, great. But if not, listen to the people you've already put your faith in and trusted.
And your deposit in.
Yeah.
Put your deposit in. Are you going to get all that conversation out with her? Depends on how hard set she is on the $200 fee. The more hard set she is, the less you're going to get in talking to her. But if you can break that just a little bit, again, you probably won't get it. I'll be honest with you. I'm like John said, he struggles with it. I struggle with it. The conversation I just had with you, I have never been able to get into with a bride.
You never broke down that barrier.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the ones that are there are just so hard. I had one that I don't know whether it was the shoestring or whether it was the venue or the priorities. We kind of went back and forth. And I almost threw in one of this. You just described that you want this. Why are you, and you've even described that you would probably get it with me. Why are you not? And my wife kind of was like, you're sounding used car-ish. And I was like, okay. So I backed off because it wasn't me. But what I wished her luck. And she said, you know what? She's like, you've been awesome. She's like, I believe you would have been awesome for my wedding. I will definitely keep your information and give it to my friends when they get married. Whether she will or not, that's her story. But, it's one of those things. If you can get that conversation going, it's great. But it's so hard for the ones that are so set on, especially somebody's going to do it for this price.
Go ahead, John, because you're reading the chat room.
Following the chat room, and you guys are sharing some great information and great stories here. By the way, what Dan had mentioned about talking to the venue was gold. If you don't take anything else from tonight, take that. And if you aren't sure what I'm talking about, rewind what he just said here, because that was a great way to turn that around. Day and Night talked about a wedding where they had spent $5,000 on a total wedding, and they didn't have. I've done that wedding, and I think I probably have. I think there's probably been 5 weddings that I was the most expensive thing at the wedding, food included, all their food bill, and it was that was where they put the priorities. They wanted to have a kick butt DJ, and we were in a pole shed in the back at the farm. And it was a potluck. There sometimes people are doing potluck weddings, and there was a $2,000 DJ sitting in the corner of the garage playing the dance music. So, not every couple that's on a shoestring budget is not seeing value in entertainment. It's just sometimes that they just couldn't scrape together the $2,000 instead of like Day and Night mentioned they had a budget of $5,500 is what they spent for the day. I've talked to brides who are trying to get their day in under $500. Can we get married for $500? I mean, that's the reality of the situation. And I think as we move forward and you get today's couples, the younger millennials, the end of the millennial run, some of those folks who they're not finding a full-time job as they're getting out of college, or they're not even going to college because they're like, oh, we're not going to invest that money because we could do this. A lot of those are doing the $10 an hour job, trying to make ends meet, but they still want to get married and they still want to have a nice day. Now the question becomes is, can we help them? And can we do something to be an asset to them? So maybe it isn't me performing, but let's get back to the beginning. Is we can help them with gear or something so they could do it themselves. Is that a possibility? There's just a lot of options.
Let me take something that you said there and run with it. Many of us have had what's the word I'm looking for? Return customers when it comes to weddings. What are you finding when it comes to a person who has been there before on that first one, looking for? Do you find them to be more reasonable? Do you find them to be able to be talked to? Do you find them to be understanding more than someone who it's their first wedding? Do you find being able to talk to them about prices and sales and importance easier, harder, the same, doesn't matter, than a young person for their first time?
My experience with second weddings is that they're not interested in all the frills, of course. They're not interested in negotiating price. Basically, they don't want to spend. They're not going to buy my top package, and they're not going to buy my bottom. They want to find a nice, low, medium, average, and they're going to pay my price. When they've come to me as a second marriage, it's like by the time they're talking to me, they're like, yeah, we're going to book you. The first marriage, and especially younger folks, are the ones that are looking, and it's like, oh, we're on our wedding budget and we have to save nickels and dimes here and there. And second ones are like, yeah, we just want to have a great party. This is what I've experienced. So in the last, I've done more second marriages in the last 5 years than I had probably in the 25 years before that. It's just the way it's gone. And Dan in the Facebook chat mentioned that I pay people $150 so I can show up and DJ their wedding. No, I pay them $250 so I can do their weddings. Okay, get the numbers
right. For second marriages, I would agree with John. They know what they want. In a lot of cases, there's more spendable income. It seems like the second marriages, they come along. Whether it's because they're older and farther into their career, whether they saved more, whatever might happen to be the multitude of different answers. But the ones that I've had that have been second weddings really seem like, here's what we want. What's it going to cost us? If they don't know the price up front, this is what we want. What's it going to cost us? We don't want this. We don't want this. We don't want this. And okay, that's a price we can deal with. And they go with it. And it's not so much like John said, they're not looking for the raging party that they're going to impress all their friends with. They're looking for a day. They're like, listen, my last wedding, we did this, or you know what? The last wedding, my DJ sucked and I don't want that again. I've heard that multiple times, and it's like, all right, I'm glad that we have a chance to change what happened to you before. I've never done a second wedding of somebody I did their first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now I know some of them have divorced and that kind of thing, but I've never done a second go around. But yeah, like I said, those that have come to me have been like, yeah, this is, they're more, I don't say they're more knowledgeable, but because it's not their first go around, they kind of have at least an understanding.
They've been down that road before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I want to go back to something you started before we got into this most recent one, and it kind of popped up with some of the conversation in the chat room. That some of the guys said, listen, maybe we can help them out. We give them an equipment rental, so at least they're using good quality equipment, and then they can run on it. Is it better for them to have an equipment rental and run it themselves, or to have a cheap DJ? And I pose this question, and we've got a lot of software out there that allows us to do auto mixing, that allows us to do syncing in a lot of cases. And I'm not talking about DJ syncing, but I'm talking about where the program what is it, Serato Pyro, I think, where it'll
there's
match up
actually
better.
there's actually an app out there right now called something Wedding DJ.
Spark
No,
DJ's
Wedding DJ or something, that when you set it up, all you have to do on your app is swipe, it starts the next song. You can literally set up your introductions, pre-record your own voice even if you want to, and just swipe to the next one. It plays the song, does the intro, or just plays the song. Swipe to the next one, and that's all you have to do. So there, like Dan said, there are lots of options in that direction. So what do you think?
Well, what I'm going with that is, if they're using something like that, but when I was in college, we had a formal dance, and I used to do them. Got to my senior year, and they said, "Listen, we want you to have the night off. No problem." I gave them some names of some DJs. The company or the group that was putting it on said, "We don't want to pay that. We don't want to buy that. We're going to do it ourselves." They got the equipment from the college. They put in, I think at that time they were using CDs. Maybe it was iTunes. I don't remember, but it wasn't syncing anything, or it wasn't. So there's gaps. You get a dance going, and then you wait. Okay, now we're going to dance again. And it was, I laughed. Like, I lasted maybe 20 minutes in, and I was like, see ya. But is it better for them to have an equipment rental and play that themselves, or to have a cheap DJ?
I used to have that conversation with couples when they were calling, especially when we were running the multi-system, because you get more calls at that particular time. And a conversation became, when brides were like, "Oh, I can't afford that. I can only afford this." And it's like, well, really at that point, you're going to get either some DJ who's very new, because that was like the $150 range, or you could rent a sound system. Well, I really don't want to rent a sound system. It's like, well, your question becomes is, who would you be more ticked off with if someone screwed up your wedding? Some stranger who you paid $200 to come and do your wedding, or you've rented for $150 and you have, your nephew doing it, who's up there trying to do the best he can and he's having fun with it, but he screwed up something. Which one are your family going to laugh about and have some fun with? The DJ or your nephew, the family member? And they're like, yeah, the family member would. And it's like, yeah, exactly. It may not be perfect for you, but if you're on a really tight budget, you need to look at, because they're both going to screw up something in your day. There's no question about it. It's just the way it is. And even a professional, I mean, I screw a lot of things up. Most of the time people don't know, but it happens. So that was one avenue that we talked about quite a bit. And when we used to actually rent out quite a bit of gear.
I have a friend, Eric, that he's not a DJ, not even anything close to a DJ, but for some reason he gets hired to DJ all his daughter's friends' Sweet 16s. Now, when I say DJ, I mean show up with his laptop and play off of like iTunes. Because they don't want to have a budget, they go, "Can you come and can do this?" And he goes and does it. He's not a DJ, doesn't own equipment, nothing, just sets up a couple speakers and plays music for them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's those people out there too that, that they're not even trying to take your job for $150 DJ. They would be like, "No, please hire him for, pay that guy."
Yep.
So you've got a lot. It's not a black or white thing. And I think that's one of the things that I want to make sure that the chat room understands tonight. We're not drawing a line. We don't want you to draw a line. We want you to kind of make your own decision with all of this. Dan, you look like you want to expand on the whole rental equipment thing. You look like you wanted to there. No?
I think I did. I think I did up front. My feeling, I would rather, I don't know. I feel like I would rather put it in the hands of somebody who maybe newer than to do the equipment rental. But again, I'm actually kind of ticked because there's a school event local. I've done stuff for the district. I've done stuff for the school, and I just got word that they're like, I was like, they contacted me about DJing, and I mentioned about photo booth. They're thinking about hiring me for the photo booth, and they're having what they said was a kid do it, and they're going to rent some equipment. And in my head, I went, this is recipe for disaster. I'm actually hoping they kind of follow through with the photo booth so I can be there just to see, because who doesn't love a train wreck?
I can't stop looking.
But I mean, but that kind of goes, because it's like that was almost twofold. You know, they're doing an equipment rental, not for me, and they're getting somebody new, and you know, they don't know what they don't know.
Another beautiful nugget from Dan tonight.
I'm
Rewind
golden
and listen
tonight.
to Dan tonight. This is something I hear a lot of teachers talk about, friends, because we all three are in the, were in the education field. That a lot of schools now, because they're having troubles with the DJs, are simply buying or putting together a laptop and some music and handing it to a teacher to take care of stuff. Is that trust issue? Can we take that mindset of the trust issue over to the wedding side and talk about, like you said, do it yourselfers? Can that peel into that at all or not?
I would assume that there obviously is some people somewhere who are like, listen, I just, I went to the wedding shows. I didn't feel like I was getting anything, but I feel like it's slightly different. And what I mean by that is you can do a quick Google search and get reviews out the wazoo for wedding DJs. You don't really get it unless you're in certain areas. I know there are certain areas where there are big school dance companies. But I think in your average city market and town market, it's harder to find reviews of those ones that specialize in school dances. Mm-hmm. So you don't have the trust factor that you might be able to with a wedding.
Okay, that makes sense. Dang, Dan, you're on tight.
But I think
Shady's not distracting me tonight. That's what it is.
I think they got two completely different though, because at a school they have someone to answer to as a bride and groom. Who do they have to answer to? Grandma, grandpa, mom, dad. Pfft, big deal. They basically maybe made to look foolish by a poor hiring decision. But most of the time, I think there's so many people out there who have seen such crappy wedding vendors, and I'm going to just leave it as a generic over the top overall, that, their DJ sucked. It wasn't the bride and groom's fault that they hired a bad DJ. It's the DJ sucked.
Yep.
And that's just the way it is. Where at a school, the DJ goes and he drops, he plays a track, and it's got, the F-bomb going on 3 or 4 times, and it's like, oh my gosh. Well, now the kids, especially some of the more conservative families, they go home and they would, did you know what happened at the dance tonight? The DJ played, the first kid will say, the DJ played some songs with the F-bomb in it. And the next one, oh my gosh, it was profanity all night long. The next kid goes home to mom and dad, oh my gosh, there was sex on our dance floor. And before long, they were smoking pot and they were drinking, and the DJ was doing it all. So then the call goes into the administration, and then the teacher, the organizer of the dance gets called into the principal's office and asked answers to it. And then the one parent calls the superintendent and says, how in the world, or the school board, and says, how in the world could this happen at our school? Unfortunately, most all of those happened to me at one time over the years with school dances. Because there's one kid who happened to see a music video or something that had a bikini in it. And oh my God, did you see that? I think they said the F-bomb. Yeah. So I think there's a huge difference in a level of trust. And I think some schools in our area, we've got schools that don't even do dances anymore just because they don't want to deal with it. They just quit doing.
I've heard that too. Yep. There's a school that I did a while back here in the city that's the same way. It's elementary, and they used to have dances for their elementary kids all the time. And they're like, well, we just don't want to deal with that anymore.
Yep.
That's all there was to it. It had nothing to do with bad DJs or anything. They're like, we just don't want that hassle. We don't want to have to worry about it. It becomes a form of liability to us.
No,
but you know what's funny? I found a way around it. You go and become a teacher at that school, and then you're the one they go to.
That sounds like a lot of work, Dan.
Yeah, well, that's what happened last year. I started new at the district, and the first dance came around, and unfortunately, it was the night that I just couldn't do it. And they said, what are you doing in the spring? And oh, by the way, you're on the committee that does these dances.
Oh, snap.
And so spring came around. I did it. It went over huge. Fall came around. They almost forgot to ask me. They just assumed.
Assumed you did.
And keep in mind, I did these for free. I was not expecting. The first one, I kind of got a little screwed over because at last minute my assistant principal was like, "Hey, we need you to bring in the equipment. The sound system for the house is all set up for the play that's also going on." And I was like, "Okay." But when it came to the fall, I was like, "We're using house system, right?" And they're like, "Yeah." I was like, "Perfect." I said, "No problem. I'll do it." And then turned around, and a couple days later, they're like, "Oh, we got an envelope for you." I say, "What?" "Yeah,
Nice.
the dance actually went over so well, we wanted to give you some money." And so it went from me thinking I was getting nothing and really not expecting anything, just suddenly now I am getting paid for it. But the difference is for me that I take pride in my school that I work for. So I wanted to do it for the kids because I know what they were having beforehand, and I didn't want them to have it.
Yeah.
So that, again, that makes the difference. I know DJs that have done it for their kids' school because, they wanted their son or daughter to have an awesome party. What's funny is, what are the DJs here from what happened? "Oh, it's so and so's dad that's doing it." And you go, "Really? So like a parent's doing it?" Like, they don't know what they're talking about. You got to hire me. And then you come to find out later, it's your best competition in the area is really the one who's doing it.
Jason Jedi has a child in your kid's class, and
Yeah, exactly.
what, Jason Jedi was there? And that's what's happening with my two boys, is their classes are doing fundraisers, and they're busy pitching, "Hey, we should have a dance as a fundraiser." It's like, guys, for the amount of work a dance takes, and you make $100 or something, can't you wash cars or pick up aluminum cans out of the side of the road or something? But that's what they want to do, and yeah,
Make more money panhandling, right?
to a point, yeah, exactly. And the only positive thing about me doing is that I can take the boys with me. They set up the gear, and I can kind of direct that, so they get a feel for that side of what Dad does. And I can go and do the dance, and we can kind of hang out together. I can watch who their friends are, and I can do the whole policing, because even though I'm doing the DJ thing, you still have retained some of that paying attention to a room that a good teacher has. And Dan knows exactly what I'm talking about, where you'll be talking to someone and you go, "Yeah, so over in the corner over there, do you see those two? They're having an issue right now, and they're kind of spouting." And my assistants over the years have been, "What? I didn't notice that." Yeah, you don't pay attention to problem spots like a teacher would.
I just noticed that Dan started the mix on the third 4-count measure instead of the second 4-count measure.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you're paying attention to.
And it was in the wrong key, but it was a slight key. It was only a minor key, so it was no big deal.
Yeah, see, that's what you're paying attention to.
He pitched it up, and it was fine.
And I'm watching this to the two 7th grade girls over there who are talking about something, and they're making fun of a third 7th grade girl that's on the other side of the room, and then how this whole little dramatic ordeal is going to be going down here at some point in time during the dance, and how we can possibly cut that off before we have more additional problems.
You know why he's able to do all that, and MJ, you're worried about the mixing?
Because I don't have
he's
kids.
Playing with
Oh,
Mega Seg. All right, sorry.
There you go.
oh no.
Funny.
It's been 3 weeks since we used that word.
It
We
has
have.
been.
I think we need to do a Mega Seg show. I think I'm not drinking every time
Next
we
week.
do that. I think maybe we should talk software sometime in the future, because Serato is about to release a new version, Serato DJ Pro. They're talking about. So it's kind of hidden. It's they're not much known, but they're kind of pushing on it. And that becomes a big point with, you talk about wedding DJs and school DJs. John said that he had a school in his area where a kid came in and played the entire night off of Spotify or iTunes, one of the two.
It was Spotify, yeah.
Yeah, literally nothing but Spotify and a laptop.
Yeah.
And then you go to the other end where you have people who are mixing and rocking it out. So, that could be a future topic maybe. Who knows? John, before we go, tell them about all the cool holiday stuff you have coming up, so they know to look for this stuff.
We've got coming up here in let's see, 2 weeks. Actually, we'll be starting our December shows. We will be doing a 12 nights of Disc Jockey News, or 12 shows of Disc Jockey News before Christmas. Last year we did the 12 days of Christmas. We did 12 shows in 12 days. Well, we're going to be doing our Monday and Tuesday. We're doing multiple shows on those nights, and we're going to be doing the 12 shows the first 3 weeks of December, and we're going to have a big prize for each one. Because of LDI hitting last week, a lot of the manufacturers we want to be part of it, but we're not sure what we're going to be doing. So we're hoping to have that nailed down. But we've got some different DJ swag that we're going to be doing, and we've got some speakers, and I think there were some lights that have come in, and a couple of party pack things are coming in. So we're going to have a big prize each night, and then we're going to be having some smaller chat room prizes, and we'll have the sign up and such. That'll all be coming up. We've got the webpage up, but I don't even remember what it is yet. Shows you how much I was paying attention. Because that's going to be, most of you will get an email on Wednesday, because with this Wednesday is our kind of deadline. We're going to have everything done with that. So you guys will be able to check that out. But that'll be starting the first Monday in December. Mondays and Tuesday nights we'll have multiple shows, and each show will have a prize drawing that we'll be giving away something. So that is coming up. And another semi-related show note is we are going to be changing things up with our Monday night shows. Or actually, quite a few of the shows are going to be changing here in 2018. And because of the Christmas event, we're actually going to be changing and retooling during the month of December some of the shows. And our Monday night show is actually going to be changing into something different for 2018, because MJ is going to be stepping away from our Monday night regular shows, as he's going to be focusing more on the Rewind Report and the Matt series of shows that he's been doing, which have, if you guys haven't had a chance to check those out, go to the Disc Jockey News YouTube channel. You'll find those shows out there. But those little quick hitters, a lot of you don't want to listen to us talk for an hour. You like to listen to us talk for 60 seconds. The Matt show is that's what that is. And those
They're probably both going to be tooled to 60 seconds, because now that Android is allowing Snapchat to do 60-second snaps, I can even put all of the shows on Snapchat too.
Very nice, very nice. So it's going to take a little bit of a change, as MJ is going to take his editing and studio skills that direction. And be able to do that.
We still might do shows on Chew about mixing and stuff too.
Exactly.
Which we talked about a zillion times. I think
Yeah, and the music mixing shows are another aspect that MJ is going to be focusing his efforts on. And really, the idea with our changing of the shows is some of our DJ and talent, their nights don't work as well as they used to. So we're going to be moving some people around that way. Some people, like MJ's music mixing shows, are something that he can do that Dan and I can't do. So we're going to do what we do, is basically sit and talk about absolutely nothing. MJ's going to actually go out and do something. And
Dan nailed it tonight, though, so we can't talk smack on him.
That's true. That's true.
Not tonight.
I'm going to be
up for it next week. Don't worry.
I'll be the one. So next week will be our final. The four of us will be together next week for our final Monday night show, where we're going to be doing all of us on a regular basis. That doesn't mean that we're not going to do a special show every once in a while. That's when we have things that come up and that it makes sense. But the Monday night shows are going to change after the first of the year. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up on it, because I'm sure some of you have heard a little bit of us, talking about it and alluding to it. And that's what's going on. Is it's not a leaving DJNTV. It's just moving people around a little bit so that they fit in some spots that are a little bit better for them. Okay. Is there anything else? Gosh, thank you guys. We had a great chat in the Facebook, and we had a great chat in the on YouTube here. Yeah, Dan in YouTube there, we did Serato DJ Pro. There's a couple of there's a few more software apps that have really taken a step up here, and there's I think there's word from DJ that they're coming out with a new version, an updated version here after the first of the year. And our friends at
DJ also.
Yeah, PC DJ just came out. I think they just come out, or they're about ready to come out. Anyway,
I think it just came out. I haven't even got a chance to look at it at all.
Yeah, we definitely probably could do a series of shows. And I think when we do the software, what we should do is we should really continue to come back to a standard, excellent piece of software that we can compare everything to. So that way we have the standard.
Nice one. Dan is on fire.
So we're going to do that.
I had to beat him to it.
You knew where I was going. You knew what I was setting this up for. So yes, we'll compare. Take the virtual DJ and compare it to Winamp, and we'll take the Serato Pro and Tractor. We take them all. But that will be a future show when we get into January. Gosh, and we get into January, we get NAMM coming up, and then we get a couple of weeks off, and then we're back. We got Mobile Beat and the Photo Booth Expo, and the world just takes off. Speaking of gear shows, next Monday night, we're going to be doing a Nick Aris, who was just at LDI, and he has got some great footage from LDI. And some of it you're going to see going up this week, but he's got 5 picks of technology and gear that you are going to want to know about for 2018 and beyond. And he's actually going through some things today. A couple we're not going to be able to share because Nick Aris was with Chauvet, was with Blizzard, and he is very well connected, not only in companies around the U.S., but this guy knows the plants in China. And he was talking about some of the what these plants in China are doing and what they're creating, and they're kind of trying to fish to find someone who will rep those products in the U.S. and such. So there's interesting things we're going to be able to share, and he's got some insight that we don't typically have at the show. I was telling Lori earlier, it's like, if Nick's going to be at LDI next year, it might be worth it just to go and be his shadow and follow him along and say, okay, now why is that company important? Well, this company's important because they were the first ones that did this, and this, and they're connected to that company over there, and they make their lights, but they make some of their lights, but not any of their lights. And he's tying these things all together, and you're just like, wow, I did not know any of that. So next Monday, we're going to have a full schedule. You guys will be able to get that in a Sunday email, but keep that in mind. LDI will be one of our shows next Monday night. Tomorrow was Tuesday night. We've got Brian Red and Ben Still. We're finally going to get the How Not to Blow Up Speakers show. We've been talking about getting that one out for about 3 or 4 weeks in a row, and each week Ben's like, hey, I got a better idea. So I think tomorrow night we're finally going to get to that one. Yes. Okay. Did I cover all the bases? The house cleaning. We're all done.
No show Wednesday, I assume, because of the night before Thanksgiving.
Wednesday. I think we're on for Wednesday yet. I think Dave and
Jeremy. Yeah.
Jeremy. I think they had a show planned for Wednesday night. So yeah, that'll be the quickie. A little pre-Thanksgiving. Maybe they'll dress up as like pilgrims and.
One turkey, one not.
Yeah, well,
I'm not saying which is which.
Well, Dave is from Canada, so they probably had their Thanksgiving like 6 weeks ago, and it could be Boxing Day. I never understood that one. Boxing Day in Canada, what's that? People go around and punch each other in the nose. Psh, psh. All right, well, thank you guys for being with us tonight. We will be back again tomorrow night at 9 o'clock Eastern. We'll look for you at that time. Have yourself a good evening. Goodbye, everyone.